said Mrs. Micawber. "It is truly painful to contemplate mankind in such an aspect, Master Copperfield. Cool. There is no doubt about it. In fact, that branch of my family which is settled in Plymouth became quite personal to Mr. Micawber before we had been there a week. I said, and thought, that they ought to be ashamed of themselves. Still, so it was," continued Mrs. Micawber. "Under such circumstances, what could a man of Mr. Micawber's spirit do? What was left? To borrow of that branch of my family the money to return to London, and to return at any sacrifice." "Then you all came back again, ma'am?" I said. "We all came back again," replied Mrs. Micawber. "Since then, I have consulted other branches of my family on the course which it is most expedient for Mr. Micawber to take, for I maintain that he must take some course, Master Copperfield," said Mrs. Micawber argumentatively. "It is clear that a family of 6, not including a domestic, cannot live upon air." "Certainly, ma'am," said I. "The opinion of those other branches of my family," pursued Mrs. Micawber, "is that Mr. Micawber should immediately turn his attention to coals." "To what, ma'am?" "To coals," said Mrs. Micawber. "To the coal trade. Mr. Micawber was induced to think, on inquiry, that there might be an opening for a man of his talent in the Medway coal trade. Then, as Mr. Micawber very properly said, the first step to be taken, clearly, was to come and see the Medway, which we came and saw. I say we, Master Copperfield, for I never will," said Mrs. Micawber with emotion. "I never will desert Mr. Micawber." I murmured my admiration and approbation. "We came," repeated Mrs. Micawber, "and saw the Medway. My opinion of the coal trade on that river is, that it may require talent, but that it certainly requires capital. Talent Mr. Micawber has. Capital Mr. Micawber has not. We saw, I think, the greater part of the Medway, and that is my individual conclusion. Being so near here, Mr. Micawber was of opinion that it would be rash not to come on and see the cathedral. Firstly, on account of its being so well worth seeing, and our never having seen it, and secondly, on account of the great probability of something turning up in a cathedral town. We have been here," said Mrs. Micawber, 3 days. "Nothing has as yet turned up, and it may not surprise you, my dear Master Copperfield, so much as it would a stranger, to know that we are at present waiting for a remittance from London to discharge our pecuniary obligations at this hotel. Until the arrival of that remittance," said Mrs. Micawber with much feeling, "I am cut off from my home. I allude to lodgings in Pentonville, from my boy and girl, and from my twins." I felt the utmost sympathy for Mr. and Mrs. Micawber in this anxious extremity, and said as much to Mr. Micawber, who now returned, adding that I only wished I had money enough to lend them the amount they needed. Mr. Micawber's answer expressed the disturbance of his mind. He said, shaking hands with me, "Copperfield, you are a true friend, but when the worst comes to the worst, no man is without a friend who is possessed of shaving materials." At this dreadful hint, Mrs. Micawber threw her arms round Mr. Micawber's neck, and entreated him to be calm. He wept, but so far recovered almost immediately as to ring the bell for the waiter, and bespeak a hot kidney pudding and a plate of shrimps for breakfast in the morning. When I took my leave of them, they both pressed me so much to come and dine before they went away that I could not refuse, but, as I knew I could not come next day, when I should have a good deal to prepare in the evening, Mr. Micawber arranged that he would call at Dr. Strong's in the course of the morning, having a presentiment that the remittance would arrive by that post, and proposed the day after, if it would suit me better. Accordingly, I was called out of school next forenoon, and found Mr. Micawber in the parlour, who had called to say that the dinner would take place as proposed. When I asked him if the remittance had come, he pressed my hand and departed. As I was looking out of window that same evening, it surprised me and made me rather uneasy to see Mr. Micawber and Uriah Heep walk past, arm in arm, Uriah humbly sensible of the honour that was done him, and Mr. Micawber taking a bland delight in extending his patronage to Uriah. But I was still more surprised when I went to the little hotel next day at the appointed dinner hour, which was 4 o'clock, to find from what Mr. Micawber said that he had gone home with Uriah and had drunk brandy and water at Mrs. Heep's. "And I'll tell you what, my dear Copperfield," said Mr. Micawber, "your friend Heep is a young fellow who might be Attorney General. If I had known that young man, at the period when my difficulties came to a crisis, all I can say is that I believe my creditors would have been a great deal better managed than they were." I hardly understood how this could have been, seeing that Mr. Micawber had paid them nothing at all as it was, but I did not like to ask. Neither did I like to say that I hoped he had not been too communicative to Uriah, or to inquire if they had talked much about me. I was afraid of hurting Mr. Micawber's feelings, or, at all events, Mrs. Micawber's, she being very sensitive, but I was uncomfortable about it too, and often thought about it afterwards. We had a beautiful little dinner, quite an elegant dish of fish, the kidney end of a loin of veal, roasted, fried sausage meat, a partridge, and a pudding. There was wine, and there was strong ale, and after dinner, Mrs. Micawber made us a bowl of hot punch with her own hands. Mr. Micawber was uncommonly convivial. I never saw him such good company. He made his face shine with the punch, so that it looked as if he had been varnished all over. He got cheerfully sentimental about the town, and proposed success to it, observing that Mrs. Micawber and himself had been made extremely snug and comfortable there, and that he should never forget the agreeable hours they had passed. And I took a review of our past acquaintance, in the course of which we sold the property all over again. Then I proposed Mrs. Micawber, or at least said modestly, "If you'll allow me, Mrs. Micawber, I shall now have the pleasure of drinking your health, ma'am," on which Mr. Micawber delivered a eulogium on Mrs. Micawber's character, and said she had ever been his guide, philosopher, and friend, and that he would recommend me, when I came to a marrying time of life, to marry such another woman, if such another woman could be found. As the punch disappeared, Mr. Micawber became still more friendly and convivial. Mrs. Micawber's spirits being elevated too, we sang Auld Lang Syne. When we came to Here's a Hand, My Trusty Fear, we all joined hands round the table, and we declared we would take a right good Willie Watt, and hadn't the least idea what it meant. We were really affected. In a word, I never saw anybody so thoroughly jovial as Mr. Micawber was, down to the very last moment of the evening, when I took a hearty farewell of himself and his amiable wife. Consequently, I was not prepared at 7 o'clock next morning to receive the following communication, dated 9:30 in the evening, a quarter of an hour after I had left him. My dear young friend, the die is cast, all is over. Hiding the ravages of care with a sickly mask of mirth, I have not informed you, this evening, that there is no hope of the remittance. Under these circumstances, alike humiliating to endure, humiliating to contemplate, and humiliating to relate, I have discharged the pecuniary liability contracted at this establishment by giving a note of hand, made payable 14 days after date, at my residence, Pentonville, London. When it becomes due, it will not be taken up. The result is destruction. The bolt is impending, and the tree must fall. Let the wretched man who now addresses you, my dear Copperfield, be a beacon to you through life, He writes with that intention, and in that hope. If he could think himself of so much use, one gleam of day might, by possibility, penetrate into the cheerless dungeon of his remaining existence, though his longevity is, at present, to say the least of it, extremely problematical. This is the last communication, my dear Copperfield, you will ever receive. From the beggared outcast, Wilkins Micawber. I was so shocked by the contents of this heart-rending letter that I ran off directly towards the little hotel with the intention of taking it on my way to Dr. Strong's and trying to soothe Mr. Micawber with a word of comfort. But, halfway there, I met the London coach with Mr. and Mrs. Micawber up behind. Mr. Micawber, the very picture of tranquil enjoyment, smiling at Mrs. Micawber's conversation, eating walnuts out of a paper bag, with a bottle sticking out of his breast pocket. As they did not see me, I thought it best, all things considered, not to see them. So, with a great weight taken off my mind, I turned into a by-street that was the nearest way to school, and felt, upon the whole, relieved that they were gone, though I still liked them very much, nevertheless. Chapter 18. A Retrospect. My school days, the silent gliding on of my existence, the progress of my life, from childhood up to youth. Let me think, as I look back upon that flowing water, now a dry channel overgrown with leaves, whether there are any marks along its course by which I can remember how it ran. A moment, and I occupy my place in the cathedral, where we all went together every Sunday morning, assembling first at school for that purpose. The earthy smell, the sunless air, the sensation of the world being shut out, the resounding of the organ through the black and white arched galleries and aisles, are wings that take me back and hold me hovering above those days in a half-sleeping and half-waking dream. I am not the last boy in the school. I have risen, in a few months, over several heads, but the first boy seems to me a mighty creature, dwelling afar off, whose giddy height is unattainable. Agnes says no, but I say yes, and tell her that she little thinks what stores of knowledge have been mastered by the wonderful being, at whose place she thinks I, even I, weak aspirant, may arrive in time. He is not my private friend and public patron, as Steerforth was, but I hold him in a reverential aspect. I chiefly wonder what he'll be when he leaves Dr. Strong's, and what mankind will do to maintain any place against him. But who is this that breaks upon me? This is Miss Shepherd, whom I love. Miss Shepherd is a boarder at the Mrs. Nettingall's establishment. I adore Miss Shepherd. She is a little girl in a spencer, with a round face and curly flaxen hair. The Mrs. Nettingall's young ladies come to the cathedral too. I cannot look upon my book, for I must look upon Miss Shepherd. When the choristers chaunt, I hear Miss Shepherd. In the service, I mentally insert Miss Shepherd's name. I put her in among the royal family. At home in my own room, I am sometimes moved to cry out, "Oh, Miss Shepherd," in a transport of love. For some time, I am doubtful of Miss Shepherd's feelings, but at length, fate being propitious, we meet at the dancing school. I have Miss Shepherd for my partner. I touch Miss Shepherd's glove, and I feel a thrill go up the right arm of my jacket, and come out at my hair. I say nothing tender to Miss Shepherd, but we understand each other. Miss Shepherd and myself live but to be united. Why do I secretly give Miss Shepherd 12 Brazil nuts for a present, I wonder? They are not expressive of affection. They are difficult to pack into a parcel of any regular shape. They are hard to crack, even in room doors, and they are oily when cracked. Yet, I feel that they are appropriate to Miss Shepherd. Soft, seedy biscuits, also, I bestow upon Miss Shepherd, and oranges innumerable. Once I kissed Miss Shepherd in the cloakroom. Ecstasy! What are my agony and indignation next day, when I hear a flying rumour that the Misses Nettingall have stood Miss Shepherd in the stocks for turning in her toes. Miss Shepherd being the one pervading theme and vision of my life, how do I ever come to break with her? I can't conceive, and yet a coolness grows between Miss Shepherd and myself. Whispers reach me of Miss Shepherd having said she wished I wouldn't stare so, and having avowed a preference for Master Jones. For Jones? A boy of no merit whatever. The gulf between me and Miss Shepherd widens. At last, one day, I meet the Mrs. Nettingall's establishment out walking. Miss Shepherd makes a face as she goes by, and laughs to her companion. All is over. The devotion of a life, it seems a life, it is all the same, is at an end. Miss Shepherd comes out of the morning service, and the royal family know her no more. I am higher in the school, and no one breaks my peace. I am not at all polite now to the Mrs. Nettingall's young ladies, and shouldn't dote on any of them, if they were twice as many and 20 times as beautiful. I think the dancing school is a tiresome affair, and wonder why the girls can't dance by themselves and leave us all alone. I am growing great in Latin verses, and neglect the laces of my boots. Dr. Strong refers to me in public as a promising young scholar. Mr. Dick is wild with joy, and my aunt remits me a guinea by the next post. The shade of a young butcher rises, like the apparition of an armed head in Macbeth. Who is this young butcher? He is the terror of the youth of Canterbury. There is a vague belief abroad that the beef suet with which he anoints his hair gives him unnatural strength, and that he is a match for a man. He is a broad-faced, bull-necked young butcher, with rough red cheeks, an ill-conditioned mind, and an injurious tongue. His main use of this tongue is to disparage Dr. Strong's young gentlemen. He says publicly that if they want anything, he'll give it them. He names individuals, among them myself included, whom he could undertake to settle with one hand and the other tied behind him. He waylays the smaller boys to punch their unprotected heads, and calls challenges after me in the open streets. For these sufficient reasons, I resolve to fight the butcher. It is a summer evening down in a green hollow at the corner of a wall. I meet the butcher by appointment. I am attended by a select body of our boys, the butcher by 2 other butchers, a young publican, and a sweep. The preliminaries are adjusted, and the butcher and myself stand face to face. In a moment, the butcher lights 10,000 candles out of my left eyebrow. In another moment, I don't know where the wall is, or where I am, or where anybody is. I hardly know which is myself and which the butcher. We are always in such a tangle and tussle, knocking about upon the trodden grass. Sometimes I see the butcher, bloody but confident. Sometimes I see nothing, and sit gasping on my second's knee. Sometimes I go in at the butcher madly, and cut my knuckles open against his face without appearing to discompose him at all. At last I awake, very queer about the head, and from a giddy sleep, and see the butcher walking off, congratulated by the 2 other butchers and the sweep and publican, and putting on his coat as he goes, from which I augur justly that the victory is his. I am taken home in a sad plight, and I have beefsteaks put to my eyes and rubbed with vinegar and brandy, and find a great white puffy place bursting out of my upper lip, which swells moderately. For 3 or 4 days I remain at home, a very ill-looking subject with a green shade over my eyes, and I should be very dull, but that Agnes is a sister to me, and condoles with me, and reads to me, and makes the time light and happy. Agnes has my confidence completely, always. I tell her all about the butcher, and the wrongs he has heaped upon me. She thinks I couldn't have done otherwise than fight the butcher, while she shrinks and trembles at my having fought him. Time has stolen on unobserved. for Adams is not the head boy in the days that are come now, nor has he been this many and many a day. Adams has left the school so long that when he comes back on a visit to Dr. Strong, there are not many there besides myself who know him. Adams is going to be called to the bar almost directly, and is to be an advocate and to wear a wig. I am surprised to find him a meeker man than I had thought, and less imposing in appearance. He has not staggered the world yet either, for it goes on, as well as I can make out, pretty much the same as if he had never joined it. A blank through which the warriors of poetry and history march on in stately hosts that seem to have no end. And what comes next? I am the head boy now. I look down on the line of boys below me, with a condescending interest in such of them as bring to my mind the boy I was myself when I first came there. That little fellow seems to be no part of me. I remember him as something left behind upon the road of life, as something I have passed, rather than have actually been, and almost think of him as of someone else. And the little girl I saw on that first day at Mr. Wickfield's, where is she? Gone also. In her stead, the perfect likeness of the picture, a childlikeness no more, moves about the house, and Agnes, my sweet sister, as I call her in my thoughts, my counsellor and friend, the better angel of the lives of all who come within her calm, good, self-denying influence, is quite a woman. What other changes have come upon me besides the changes in my growth and looks, and in the knowledge I have garnered all this while? I wear a gold watch and chain and ring upon my little finger, and a long-tailed coat, and I use a great deal of bear's grease, which, taken in conjunction with the ring, looks bad. Am I in love again? I am. I worship the eldest Miss Larkins. The eldest Miss Larkins is not a little girl. She is a tall, dark, black-eyed, fine figure of a woman. The eldest Miss Larkins is not a chicken, for the youngest Miss Larkins is not that, and the eldest must be 3 or 4 years older. Perhaps the eldest Miss Larkins may be about 30. My passion for her is beyond all bounds. The eldest Miss Larkins knows officers. It is an awful thing to bear. I see them speaking to her in the street. I see them cross the way to meet her when her bonnet, she has a bright taste in bonnets, is seen coming down the pavement accompanied by her sister's bonnet. She laughs and talks and seems to like it. I spend a good deal of my own spare time in walking up and down to meet her. If I can bow to her once in the day, I know her to bow to. Knowing Mr. Larkins, I am happier. I deserve a bow now and then. The raging agonies I suffer on the night of the race ball, where I know the eldest Miss Larkins will be dancing with the military, ought to have some compensation, if there be even-handed justice in the world. My passion takes away my appetite, and makes me wear my newest silk neckerchief continually. I have no relief but in putting on my best clothes, and having my boots cleaned over and over again. I seem, then, to be worthier of the eldest Miss Larkins. Everything that belongs to her, or is connected with her, is precious to me. Mr. Larkins, a gruff old gentleman with a double chin, and one of his eyes immovable in his head, is fraught with interest to me. When I can't meet his daughter, I go where I am likely to meet him, to say, "How do you do, Mr. Larkins? And the young ladies and all the family, are the young ladies and all the family quite well?" Seems so pointed that I blush. I think continually about my age, say I am 17, and say that 17 is young for the eldest Miss Larkins. What of that? Besides, I should be 21 in no time almost. I regularly take walks outside Mr. Larkins' house in the evening, though it cuts me to the heart to see the officers go in, or to hear them up in the drawing-room, where the eldest Miss Larkins plays the harp. I even walk, on 2 or 3 occasions, in a sickly, spoony manner, round and round the house after the family had gone to bed, wondering which is the eldest Miss Larkins's chamber, and pitching, I dare say now, on Mr. Larkins's instead, wishing that a fire would burst out, that the assembled crowd would stand appalled, that I, dashing through them with a ladder, might rear it against her window, save her in my arms, go back for something she had left behind, and perish in the flames. For I am generally disinterested in my love, and think I could be content to make a figure before Miss Larkins and expire. Generally, but not always. Sometimes brighter visions rise before me, when I dress, the occupation of 2 hours, for a great ball, given at the Larkins, the anticipation of 3 weeks. I indulge my fancy with pleasing images. I picture myself taking courage to make a declaration to Miss Larkins. I picture Miss Larkins sinking her head upon my shoulder and saying, "Oh, Mr. Copperfield, can I believe my ears?" I picture Mr. Larkins waiting on me next morning and saying, "My dear Copperfield, my daughter has told me all. Youth is no objection. Here are £20,000. Be happy." I picture my aunts relenting and blessing us, and Mr. Dick and Dr. Strong being present at the marriage ceremony. I am a sensible fellow, I believe. On looking back, I mean, and modest I am sure, but all this goes on notwithstanding.